Okay, so I'll leave the floor to Mr. Ganni, Chairman of Morgan International, and he will a better job introducing himself and his credentials. Mr.
All
Fadi.
right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Charles. And so I'm going to be talking in general over what is it, the CPA, the CIA. I do want to make this very interactive. So please, I'm going to give you real examples and just to talk about the industry in general and where it's going. So my name is Fadi Ganni. I'm the CEO of Morgan. I'm actually a CPA. I used to practice many years ago in North America as an auditor, worked in the CPA field. And now I'm more on the educational side, working with several multinational companies, helping them expand their program reach in the region. So I teach the CPA in many parts of the world, in Europe, India, Middle East, and in Canada. So I'm going to try to make it as much as possible interesting. It can be a bit of a dry topic. So again, if you have any questions, anything, let's address them at the end of the presentation so we don't disrupt the flow of the presentation. So I'm going to start now. First of all, you need to understand what is the difference between CPA and CIA, and not only in terms of the examination and technical, but as a career path. Now, the first misconception I want to say before I get started is that there's no one designation better than the other. It all depends on your career. What do you want to do? It's like comparing an eye doctor with a heart doctor. There's not one better than the other. It's all depends on your career and what do you like to do when you graduate and you want to start your career in the audit world. So let's keep that in mind, that both qualifications are highly respectful. Each one does things differently. It takes you through a different career path, but at one point it will cross over, and I will explain it in more details. So before I get into the talk about them, you need to understand the ecosystem, what's going on globally when it comes to education and professional qualifications. And throughout the presentation, I'll go more in details because there are many changes going on. So if we look today and we compare it to 15 or 20 years ago, we see more and more demand for professional qualifications. And there's a reason for those growth, which I will address them. And because of the demand on those professional qualifications, it means there is more job opportunities for all of you. And there's more, I would say, higher rewards. So why is this in demand? So what's the cause of it? There are several factors. One is, the basic one studies have shown, is that the university college curriculum is not covering in-depth skills needed for the workforce. And that's a global thing. And a lot of universities now are looking into integration of professional qualification. This is why ZEC has the CPA program within its curriculum for masters. So there's a gap between what is the market requirements and what is in terms of skills and what are the skills you're gaining at university. And that gap is at all levels. So we're not talking about technical, it's at all levels, be it business analytical skills, be it soft skills. So at various levels, there are gaps. And a lot of organizations, whenever they want to hire finance people, 90% of surveyed, and this is global, say they have very difficult time to hire entry-level people in the finance. So if you have the experience, it's easy to find a job, but the entry level, those organizations are finding it troublesome to locate the candidates with the skills they require. And we know with the technology and everything is changing. So everybody has to raise the competency level to be able to compete in today's world. So this is a general view of what's going on. So again, talking about the skills gap, we're talking about the education system. We're talking about the skills required by corporates, and this is changing as well. And we're talking about the requirements. Now, many of the corporates, they have different requirements for the jobs. So there are a lot of moving parts among all the systems. This is where professional qualification. Yeah. All right. The other thing you need to be aware about is we are currently in the fourth industrial revolution. And let me talk about what we mean by that. And it's something very important. In the 1780s, it was the first industrial revolution where we're talking about mechanical systems. Then we had the second industrial revolution where we had the shift to electricity and started the communication tools. The third one was in 1950, where we shifted to the computer and computing power. And presently, we are going for the fourth industrial revolution. What we mean by that is the cyber physical society. So now it's not anymore about people working with computers and able to finish the task. And we're going to see this moving much faster. The reason I'm mentioning this is that the exams coming up will be accounting for all those type of changes. So those who are planning to sit for the CPA or CIA, there's a major evolution in those exams and what they will be testing on. So we are currently in the fourth industrial revolution. What we mean by that is computers interacting with humans and other computers. There's a massive amount of data. And if you want to be in the finance area, you should not, those data you need to be able to manipulate, understand, and draw conclusion. We're talking about smart technologies now. You all heard about chat GPT now and how everything is changing. Computers or IT or smart technology will be in every function within the organization, whether you are an engineer, whether you are a senior level or a mid-level or junior level. This is something we have to adapt and live with. And those changes will be shifting at a very fast pace. So the shift will be to the cyber physical systems. We've seen it, it's happening, and it's gonna continue to grow at a very fast pace. So the other challenges we're facing now today is the business risks that we are facing. So one of those risks is keeping with the industry trends. The trends are moving fast and corporates have to adapt very quickly. So we need to make sure employees are ahead of the game. The other risk factor is how we manage risk effectively. There's increased competition. You need to stay relevant in today's digital landscape. How you maintain the customer's loyalty and how you retain and invest in the right people within the organization. All those elements are challenges today. We all hear about the quiet quitting. People, we have a new terminology, quiet quitting. We have the massive quitting. So the market dynamics is changing and the landscape is changing. So what's the future? So we're gonna have to talk about evolving smart digital technology. Again, globalization, where you can be sitting in Lebanon, working for a German company now with the Zoom and Teams and the collaborative tools. You don't have to be within the organization to be able to be hired. You can be anywhere. So it's a global now, open for competition. And finally is with all those changes, there's a lot more now requirements, compliance requirements, from tax actions into data security and privacy, compliance requirements, and new laws are coming out as we speak in the digital world. So more opportunities, more compliance, more competition. This is what summarizes it. And this is just a picture looking at the history and how things have changed. You can see the phone. Some of you might not have seen those phones. It's not on your days. And we used to have a computer. Now we're talking about cyber interaction and virtual reality and smart technologies. So things are moving very fast. Skills, in addition to your technical skills, you have to have now additional skills over and above your know-how in the, when I say technical, if I talk about CPA, you understand your financials, accounting, the debits and the credits, the income statement, but over and above, companies are looking for adaptability and flexibility. So even if you are the best in the world when it comes to technical expertise, if you're not able to adapt and you're flexible and you're able to go ahead with the changes, chances you will not be hired. We're looking at people have to be able to use technology in their day-to-day operation. They're looking at creativity and innovation. You might laugh when we talk about internal audit or accounting that there's no creativity or innovation. In every function, in any industry, there is creativity and innovation. How we can streamline things, how we can put better control. So this is another skills requirement. Of course, data literacy, you need to be able to look at data and make conclusions out of that. It's not just getting the data out, it's how we interpret it and how we take decisions. Critical thinking, leadership is very important today. If you're working remotely, your boss will not be in the same office. So you have to have those leadership skills where you're able to continue and manage your task without being supervised by a direct manager within your organization. We're talking about emotional intelligence is a very important skills you should have. And again, it's not a one-time learning now. Now it's a lifelong learning. So in 3 years, if you don't update your knowledge, you will be obsolete. So you finish university, you get your certification, and doesn't stop every year over there. You have to continually evolve and learn, and so you can stay up to date. Emotional intelligence, where you have to interact with various audience from different backgrounds and different culture. So having said that, I just wanted to give you a general overview over how the markets are changing, how the world is changing, and how the skills are changing. This is impacting professional qualifications. I will address it in the CPA and I would address it in the CIA. Both exams are changing and there's a massive changes to take into consideration what's going on globally. So both qualification, whether we talk about CIA or CPA, they both will give you the credential, the respect, and will improve your skills in the areas of external auditing or internal auditing. And definitely both will open new job opportunities for you. This is without a doubt. We've seen it in good times, in good economies, and bad economies. There's always demand for such qualifications. So when we talk about professional qualifications, how does it differ than a university degree? I'm not saying these are better than a university degree. They complement. And in fact, most of those certifications, if you don't have a background or you have a bachelor degree, and in some instances you might require a master's degree, you cannot enter into those professions or get those certifications. So the difference is that when we talk about certification, it's like an association. You belong to a network. Those associations are regulated. AICPA is regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission in the US, so it's a government entity. The IIA it's not a government entity, but they work very closely with governments, and it's an association based out of the US. So what does it do? Once you pass those exams and you meet the experience requirements, If you pass those exams, you have a title next to your name. So if, like a lawyer, like a doctor will put MD. If you're a CPA, you'll put CPA next to your name. If you're a CIA next to your name. In some areas, particularly in the CPA, it's a license to practice. So it's not only a certification, it's a license, like a doctor's license. In fact, when you renew your license, you will apply to the same place where lawyers apply or doctors apply. It's a licensing authority, and it varies from one state to the other. It is very much career focused. So the focus will be on the practice side and not on the academic side. You're considered a subject matter expert in the area that you specialize in. And like I said, you belong to an association, you have to pay your fees every year, you have to attend conferences, and there are certain requirements when you're part of that association. And it tests heavily on ethics. So you have a standard code of conduct that you have to abide with. They are globally recognized. So there's no one, if you sit for your CPA in Lebanon, or you take your program with USEC in Lebanon, and somebody is taking the CPA course in New York, you pass the exam, you pass the exam. It doesn't matter where you train for it and where you sit for the exam. At the end of the day, it's a one uniform examination. Again, it is short and focused, so it doesn't take a long time. And the end result is you earn more money. So this is why people are opting for professional qualification. They are in demand from the corporate side, which I'm not going to address the reasons why there's a demand on it. But which one is the right for you? So it's all depends on your career aspiration. So I'm going to do a general comparison and then I go into the details. So if we look at the CIA, CIA stands for Certified Internal Auditor. So you're really working within companies and you're working in the function of internal audit, and we'll define later on what's internal audit. That's one. If we look at the side of the CPA, it's called Certified Public Accountant. You do exactly what the internal auditor do, but your responsibility is to external stakeholders. So in the first one, you will be conducting activities to put proper controls and safeguard the assets of the organization. The other one, you're protecting the shareholders and you're protecting the bankers and the creditors. So the CPA, what they usually do is they test the financial statements. That's one of the things they do. They assess the controls and they give an opinion on the financial statements, whether they represent the reality or not. So that's one. Second definition is who wants to, yes. The second part is the certification is issued for the CIA by the IIA, which is the Institute of Internal Auditor. They are the regulation body. They are the ones that will give you the license or the certificate to practice. While with the CPA, it is issued by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. The last one is the areas of expertise. CIA, like I mentioned, your expertise in internal audit, and the CPA, your expertise is in public accounting. What I mean by public accounting is external audit and financial reporting. The role of an internal auditor is not to produce financial reports. They're strictly, their mission or what they do is they test the internal controls and make sure there's enough compliance to avoid any fraud or deviation from the company's policies. While the CPA, their job is to produce external financial reporting and render an opinion on financial statements. So these are on a very high level, the main differences between the CIA and the CPA. The other main difference is globally, when it comes to internal audit, there is one association globally, which is the IIA. There's no American CIA or Lebanese CIA or British CIA. While with the CPA, there is the British qualification, there's the Lebanese qualification, we call it LCPA, and there's the American CPA. In general, the most respected accounting qualifications are the Anglo-Saxon, which is the American, Canadian, and the British. Why the CPA is very common internationally? It's simpler to obtain, it's shorter, and it is the certification of the largest economy in the world. Being the largest economy in the world, most of the big companies, they want it to be listed on the US stock exchange. So the companies demand CPAs for that reason. But it's not better than the British or the Canadian. It's just there's a demand on it for the reasons I just mentioned. So let's talk about what are the roles so you understand of an internal auditor before we talk about the exam. What are the functions? So the main role of an internal auditor is to assess how the risks are being managed and what are the internal processes that are working to manage those risks. This is the ultimate thing for an internal auditor. You look at internal controls, make sure internal controls are there. And when I say internal controls, I'm not talking only financial. I'm talking financial, operational, various controls and processes and compliance and legal, so you can manage the risk, so you ensure the company is not exposed. So what are usually the job functions of internal auditor? They evaluate the company's compliance program. They look at the compliance and procedures. They test them. They make sure they're working. They evaluate the risk management, how it's being handled by the company. If there's discrepancy, how it is reported, to whom it is reported. And especially now with the IT and technology, a big function of the role is information security and risk from the technology side and the exposures. They usually report to the board of directors or they report to the internal audit committee. Any deviation or alarms, they report them. They do various analysis as well in order to make sure to test those. And again, those processes, they have to be, if there's a new law enacted or whatever comes on, they need to adapt those processes and streamline those procedures to make sure compliance and risk management is under control. And they anticipate emerging issues through data and assessment. So there are certain tests that they do from financial statements that can lead them to non-finance issues as well. And they communicate with various stakeholders. So who they report to and who they communicate with is various stakeholders. One thing you need to know, any publicly listed company has to have an internal audit department. It's the law. Example again here, it's not a good example, but I'm gonna say it. Lebanon, for example, all the banks, the law requires that they have to have internal audit department. Now, irrespective of what's happening, so usually large corporates or publicly listed corporates or financial institutions, they require to have an internal audit department. If we, on the other hand, we look at the CPA, what they do, so they usually look at the financial health of the company and the reporting procedures, and they provide an opinion. So they want to make sure the numbers reflect the reality and the records and the audit trail is available there so they can check any inaccuracies if it happened. They do have different audits programs that you carry on, for example, for assets, short-term inventory, liabilities, So you have different sections. We'll get into it. They usually report externally. The other thing what they do is they produce at the end of the assignment audited reports, and they usually work with senior CEO, CFO level when they are conducting that engagement. So they, if there's any question or testing, it's usually done at the very high level, and they oversee the overall how the financial department is operating and the procedures they have set in order to maintain internal controls. And of course, they give suggestions based on the audit they carried. They give a recommendation. But the ultimate objective of a CPA is to produce an audited financial statements and render an opinion. This is the main objective. Definitely a lot of CPAs, they end up working in the private sector, not as auditor. They will be CFOs of company or the VP of finance. So their role will be within the finance department. It will evolve, but I'm talking here about the audit profession. So for both certifications, what you require is to have three things in order to sit for the exam. One is you need to meet the educational requirements. So in order to sit for the exam, there's criteria. You have to have a minimum requirements in terms of education. You need to pass the exams. And once you pass the exams and you have the experience, you need to commit to continuing education. These are professionals exams. If you don't meet the continuing education, for example, CPA, they might require 24 hours of continuing education each year in order to maintain your license in good standing. So it's not a one-time thing. You sit for the exam, you pass the exam, you show proof of experience, then you can have the title next to your name. And every year you need to renew your membership, you need to renew your license. And how do you renew your license? Is by paying fees and showing that you are doing continuing education. These are the requirements for most of professional qualifications. Let me go into more details on the CPA. So as a career CPA, where can you work? Most of the CPAs, they start their career working for public accounting firms, auditing firms. They're all present in Lebanon. Example would be PricewaterhouseCoopers, Deloitte, KPMG. There are many other, there's the Big 10 firms, they're all present in Lebanon. So most of the CPAs, they start their career in audit, external audit. And once they gain experience, they move through they leave the audit and they move into the private sector. So auditing is one. A lot of them work in consulting firms as well. That's a whole section. It could be within the PwCs and the KPMGs and the Deloitte, or they can join a consulting firm. A lot of them work in large multinational corporates. Governments hire a lot of CPAs. Academia, they hire CPAs to teach as well. A lot of NGOs as well hire CPAs, and a lot of CPAs, because of the experience working with, if you're an auditor with 20 years experience, you probably sit on the board of directors for a few companies because you have seen how other companies operate, and usually those companies, they want your expertise. So it's a vast, but the trend, usually you start in an audit firm, you gain experience, and then you move into the private sector. And a lot of them, while they're working in the private sector, they teach on the side, or they join a nonprofit organization. So really there's no limitation for how you wanna, where the career will take you. But it's very important the first couple of years you gain experience in the audit. It gives you, it's not a must, but it gives you the tools and the empowerment to really move with your career at an accelerated rate. So in order to get your license and have your name have the title CPA next to your name, you need to meet 3 criteria, like I mentioned before. You need to meet the education requirements, you need to pass the exam, and you have to show experience. The experience could be before or after passing those exams. It doesn't matter when you gain your experience. So zooming on the CPA, when we talk about experience, the minimum you require is to have a bachelor degree or higher. So you have to have a bachelor degree, which is usually it's a 4 years of university level, or you have to have a master's degree. It depending on which state board you sit for the exam, but these are the requirements. And when I say bachelor degree, it has to be a major in accounting. So you have to have minimum major in accounting. You cannot be an engineer and you say you want to sit for the US CPA. You have to be a business major, a business graduate with a major in accounting, a minimum of a bachelor degree. Some state boards, they require 1 year over and above the bachelor degree in order to qualify to sit for the exam. So again, this we can advise you. I don't think you're a graduate, you don't have an issue with that. I mean, this is not the first batch we're launching, but keep in mind, you have to be a major in accounting or finance with certain number of credits. This is one. Second, you have to have between 1 and 3 years of experience. What makes a difference is based on what type of experience you have and which state board you sat for the exam. If you sit for the state board of New York, has a different requirements than if you sit for the state board of Alaska. So the experience is on a state by state. And of course, you have to sit and pass the 4 parts uniform CPA examination. So to sit for the exam, you only need to meet the education requirements. To get the license, you have to pass the exam and you have to show a proof of 1 to 3 years experience. Experience is not a must before you actually sit for the exam. Now, for those who are missing accounting credits, just lately now, those credits can be made up. We have a tie-up with the California State University. So if you take the Becker course, while you're preparing for the CPA course, for each 2 lectures, you will gain 3 credits from the California State University. Of course, we have to take you through a different route. You have to submit homework for those universities. And those credits are only to meet the requirements of the CPA exam. Those credits are not meant to be for university credit towards a bachelor or a master's degree. So the university is only offering those credits so you meet the requirements. You cannot count them in case you want to go for a bachelor or master. So it's just a complementary program we have for those who do not meet the requirements to help them meet the requirements. Now, the actual exam itself, it's a computer-based exam. It is on demand. So there's no pen and pencil. You walk into a testing area. It's the Middle East in Lebanon, and you launch your exam. There's a 5 minutes before the exam where you will have to fill the confidentiality statements, blah, 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 blah. And then you launch the exam and it's all done on a computer. There's no pen or paper. Everything you can do is on the computer. The exam is made of multiple choice questions and task-based simulation. So majority of the exam is multiple choice questions. So you have 1 out of 4 options that is correct. They will ask you the question. You have A, B, C, D. You have to choose 1 out of the 4. This is one type of questions. The other type is task-based simulation. What we mean by task-based simulation is they give you a big case, and then you have several questions related to that case. So it could be prepare an audit opinion, or it could be write a memo to the partner, or it could be do a research. You have the capabilities on the exam to do a research. It's like an open book, like a Google search you do. They want to test your search abilities, So expect any question. It is 100% computer graded. Even the essay, it is somehow the first run is graded by the computer. You need to score a minimum of 75% on each part of the exam in order to pass. So if you scored 72 or 70 on any of the parts, you will not pass the exam. Minimum passing rate is 75. And once you pass one part of the exam, you have 18 months to complete the remaining exam. There are 4-part examinations, so you need to complete everything once you pass one part within 18-month period. Like I've mentioned, the exam is multiple choice questions. You have task-based simulations as well, which we spoke about it. Only one section is written communication tasks, which is a light section, but this is going away very soon. So to give you an idea, so there are 4 parts. Part 1 is auditing and attestation, regulation. Second part, financial accounting and reporting, and business environment and concepts. So under the audit, you have 72 multiple choice questions and 8 task simulation. You have 4 hours to complete the exam. If we look at the regulation, again, it's 76 multiple choice question and 8 task-based simulation, 4 hours. Financial accounting is 66 questions and 8 task simulation. And the business environment and concept is 62 questions, 4 task-based simulation, and 3 written communication. Each part of the exam is 4 hours. It doesn't matter which part you take. You can start with the regulation and then take the audit, then the financial accounting, or you can start with the financial accounting and move into the audit. However, with ISAC, we have a specific schedule that we run, and we need to follow the ISAC schedule that has been mapped out against those 4 sections. So a general comment, candidates find you've been exposed to financial accounting, you've been exposed to auditing, and you've been exposed to business environment and concept. All those theories, you've seen it within your curriculum at ISAC. Some topics we might go slightly deeper into them. The only new topics that you have not been exposed to is the regulation. When I talk about regulation, I'm talking about the US tax system. I'm talking about US income tax for individuals, for corporates as well. So this is a new part. The other thing I'd like to mention here is that the highest passing rate among those 4 parts is the regulation. And the most difficult part is the financial accounting and reporting. But imagine the US taxes has the highest tax, the highest passing rate, simply because it's really, you have to memorize the rules and the regulations. So it's not a lot of practice, it's more counts on memory. And a lot of you are scared of that part, so you really master it. Okay, that's the 4 parts of the US CPA exam. So if I want to go into more details, I'm not going to spend a lot of hours on this. If I look at the auditing part, this is what you would be studying: ethics, professional responsibilities, and general principles. You will be tested on assessing risk and developing a planned response, how you perform further procedures and obtain evidence, and how you form conclusion and reporting. This is how the exam, the auditing part, and there are different weights. You will learn that throughout the course. Some topics you have to remember and understand. Some topics you have to know how to apply them. Some topics require analysis, and some topics has evaluation. For example, performing further procedures and obtaining evidence, it will really test you, the exam will test you on application, analysis, and evaluation. If we look at ethics, it will test you on remembering, understanding, and application. So again, the weight varies. And even if we look at the type of questions, 25% of the remembering understanding are multiple choice question. Application is both task-based simulation, multiple choice. Don't worry about this. I'm just giving you an idea. By the time you finish from the course, you know all of this. So you need to spend between 80 and 100 hours for this part, studying over and above the classes you'll be attending at USAC. If we look at the business structure, which is the easiest part, you will be going over enterprise management, internal controls, economics, financial management, information technology, and operations management. Again, they're broken down. Again, you need between 80 and 100 hours. While the financial accounting, the biggest one and the heaviest one, is divided into 4 sections as well. You will be going over framework, standard setting, and financial reporting. So you learn everything about income statement, balance sheet, shareholders' equity. Then you go into details over each selected financial statement accounts, line by line. Then you learn specific transactions and state and local government accounting. So you learn a bit about governmental accounting. This requires more hours of preparation, between 130 and 150 hours. And the last part is the regulation. So again, under regulation, you have to learn business law, ethics, federal taxation of property transactions, federal taxation for individuals, and federal taxation for entities. Again, between 100 and 120 hours. Now, that's the big thing. Starting January, remember when I told you everything is changing, technology is changing, the 4th industrial revolution. With that means the exams are changing, both on the CPA and the CIA. So starting January 2024, there will be a complete new exam. And what do you mean by the complete new exam? So before the evolution, now, what I explained, you have to sit for the audit, the FAR, the regulation, and the BEC. There are 4 parts. Moving forward, there's gonna still be 4 parts, but there's gonna be core and advanced discipline. So you still have to sit for the audit, you still have to sit for the financial, and you still have to sit for the regulation. These are core, you still have to sit for them. The BEC is gonna be divided into 3 different options. So you have 3 core exams, it's a must you sit, and you have to pick up 1 out of the remaining 3. You end up sitting for 4 parts, but the last part, you have a choice between the bar, there's a new section called business analysis and reporting, or information system and controls, ISC, or tax compliance and planning. Majority of the international candidates will not go for the tax because this is too US centric. So probably you will have to choose for those who want to become an information system audit and controls, they would choose the ISC. For the others, they would go for the bar, which is the business analysis and reporting. If you want to plan to work in audit, both are accepted, but as a general rule, the audit firms will prefer the business analysis and reporting, the bar part of the exam, because they want it to be generalistic. So again, 3 parts remain core. The last part will be divided into 3, and you choose between business analysis or taxes or information systems. It's your choice. So now you can specialize. And this is because of the changes happening around the world and the requirements of the corporates. So the other changes, there's no BEC, like I mentioned, and the written communication is going away. This is too technical. I'm not going to talk about authoritative literature. You still have to score 75%, and you still have 18 months to complete the 3 core and the 1 elective course. For those who are in the system, if you pass the 4 parts before 2024 January, you don't need to worry about that. For those who are transitioning from the old to the new. They're still in the system. There is a transition plan. So they're not going to incur more costs, or there is a plan that we have devised, but I'm not going to address it in today's presentation. The last thing I want to talk about the CPA is that once you've passed and you became a CPA, you need 40 hours of continuing professional training. And part of those 40 hours, part of it has to be in ethics and compliance. And it all depends on what type of a license you have. So this is it for the CIA, for the CPA. Let me talk about the CIA, and then I'll talk briefly on the learning, and then we'll answer all your questions. For the outlook for the CIA, again, and this is produced by the Bureau of Statistics of Accounting and Auditors and the Institute of Internal, there's going to be 6% growth in the industry projected till the year 2028. Simply, if there's more compliance now, we're talking about data privacy and everything, there's more demand for CIAs. And in general, if you earn on an average, if you're working in internal audit, if you have the CIA on an average, you earn $38,000 higher salary or package than those who are non-CIAs. So what do CIA do? They develop and examine processes and procedures. So you put on new procedures and you test those procedures, and you test existing procedures. You confirm accuracy of the information. You understand the risk and internal controls to reduce the fraud, and you improve your organization effectiveness. So there are two objectives. When you have good processes, good governance, and good risk management, the organization by nature is going to be more effective and efficient. So where you can work as an internal auditor, the Big Four will take you, because some of the assignments that the big accounting firms they receive is to go and test the internal controls of companies. This could be an assignment by itself. So you can be hired by accounting firms. You can be hired by government sector, and like I mentioned, many large corporates, public traded companies will require to have CIAs within their or internal audit department. So again, the scope is big. CIA they require to have certain skills over and above the technical skills. Usually you work in teams, but you work individually. So you should be able to work on your own initiative, and as a part of a team, you might be given certain assignment to test certain procedures. Usually you have to be very detailed oriented and attention to detail. You should be able to solve problem. If you see internal control weakness, you should be able to give recommendation, understand, analyze, and come up with a procedure. Usually you have to have very good communication as well, because for the typical person or a typical manager, when you're discussing internal controls and technical aspect, you should be able to have good communication to convey the idea. Usually there are very deadlines and pressure as well. And of course, you have to have good background in IT, understanding IT systems and mathematics and finance and accounting, because you will, part of the exam, you will have to learn financial reporting, because there are certain tasks or that you will carry by looking at the balance sheet, comparing it to the previous years. You can identify high risk areas and you move from there. So you should be able to know how to create all those comparative financial statements and ratio analysis. Now, how you become a CIA? Very simple. First, you need to meet the requirements, the eligibility, which I talk about them. You need to agree by the code of ethics of the IIA. You need to meet the experience requirements and pass the CIA exam. Similar to the CPA. It's not very much different. When we talk about the CIA, unlike the CPA, you don't have to have a bachelor degree, and in some cases, 1 year over and above the bachelor. You're required to have an associate degree. So if you have a 3 years of university level or equivalency, you can sit for the exam. If you have a bachelor degree, of course, you can sit. And if you have a master's degree, you can sit. So there are no barriers to sit for the exam. To get the certification and have the title CIA next to your name, then you need to meet the experience requirements. And the experience requirements varies based on what's your educational background. So if you have a 3 years of university level, which is an associate degree and not a bachelor, you have to demonstrate 60 months of experience in internal audits or equivalent. If you have a bachelor degree, all what requires is 2 years of university of an experience. And if you have a master's degree, all what you need to show them is 1 year. So on the CPA side, they tell you the experience varies from state to state and depends what kind of experience you have. Is it an accounting experience or audit experience? On the CIA, it's different. They accept you not to have a bachelor degree, but then the experience requirement changes based on your educational background. And of course, you have to pass the 3-part exams, which is administered by the MEDs. It's a computer-based exam. Both exams are computer-based. The CPA is a 4-part, the CIA is a 3-part examination. So what are the 3 parts on the CIA exam? Part 1 is essential of internal auditing. Part 2 is practice of internal auditing, and part 3 is business knowledge for internal auditing. So part 1 is 125 multiple choice questions. Part 2 is 100 multiple choice questions, and part 3 is 100 multiple choice questions. There are no essays, there are no task-based simulation. It's strictly 100% multiple choice questions. First part is 2.5 hours, 2 hours second part, and 2 hours the third part. It is computer-based, on demand, and the testing is done at Pearson VUE, which is available in Lebanon. Now, what is covered on a very high level? Under part 1, when you talk about essentials of internal auditing, you will be going over what is the foundation. You need to understand the basics of internal auditing. You need to understand and talk about independency and objectivity. You have to be independent. You have to understand the proficiency and due professional care, which we are talking about the ethics here. How to do quality assurance and improve programs, governance, risk management and control, and fraud risk. This is part 1. The biggest part of part 1 is governance, risk management, and control. You move into part 2, which is practice of internal auditing. So we move from the foundation now to practice. The practice is how you manage an internal audit activity, how you plan the engagement, how you perform the engagement, and how you communicate the results, and you monitor the progress. The biggest heavy weight is on performing the engagement. And the last part, which is business knowledge for internal auditors, you will go over business acumen, general business topics, IT security 25%, information technology 20%, and financial management 20%. So financial accounting, external financial accounting or financial management is 20% of part 3, and the biggest chunk is on the business acumen, followed by information security. You have to pass each part of the exam in order to become a CIA. Now, in order to maintain your certification like the CPA, so you have to take continuing professional education. So if you want to have the title CIA next to your name, like any other professional qualification, if you are practicing internal audit, you need 40 hours of yearly continuing professional education. If you're not practicing an internal audit, you need only 20 years. So they distinguish between practicing and non-practicing. So if you are a CIA and you're a university professor teaching, you only need 20 hours. So again, if you're practicing as an internal auditor, then you need 40 hours. Now, going through the preparation on a very, very high level, just so you understand, the way you study for those exams is not the way you are used to at the university level. Though the programs are offered at the university, the approach is different. These are not academic, these are professional exams. So in addition to your textbooks and to your materials, you'll be provided with a lot of tools that you can access online and solve those, use those tools in your preparation. It's an ecosystem made out of your instructions, your live instructor going over the material, and then your tools that you, when you go back home, that you have to utilize in order to prepare for those exams. So what are the tools? Okay, one is that you will have an access to a software where you have the digital books, the e-books, and the previous exam questions, and the task-based simulation, and. So it's very important that you practice those questions and solve previous exam questions. The course matches the blueprint of the exam, so you don't need outside materials. You will have lectures led at USAC. You will have digital textbooks that are annotated. What I mean by annotated, it means they're highlighting, there are examples. You have thousands of questions to practice. You will have access to flashcards. These are important things that you need to memorize and know them by heart. You have bit-sized lecture videos, you can access them. Some of the programs are AI powered, so it's modularized, and not only modularized, it will give you access to your areas of weakness, areas of strength. There are review sessions, there are simulated exams, and a database of question answers. And there's an access to academic support. So you need to use all those tools. Now, we always get the questions asked, how many hours I need to put while preparing for those exams? The more time you put preparing for those exams, the higher chances you will pass. But you have to keep it short and focused. The other thing is you really have to focus on solving previous exam questions. Even if you know the theory by heart, you understand it, you know how to apply it, and you've memorized it, if you don't practice previous exam questions, you're not going to pass. So really, you learn by both understanding the theory and focusing on solving previous exam questions. So you have to stay focused on the practice. You need to put a plan. We can work out with you when you plan to sit for the exam. You need to practice every question that we give you, minimum of 3 times. That's the minimum. You need to set daily goals and stick to them, because if you start procrastination, you will start postponing those exams. You can join a study group within USAC as well for the group you're studying, and you will have the tools, so wherever you are, you will access the content without having to be inside a classroom. Before the actual exam, you need to set out 2 to 4 weeks to have a final review before you actually sit for the exam. You need to take the mock exams in the exam conditions, and the final review should be only focused on the part where you feel you are weak. You don't go over the textbook completely. There is exam techniques, how you should approach those exams. This is it for today and what I wanted to discuss. I'm here now to take all your questions. So I'm sure some of you have questions. So please feel free to ask any question you have.
Mr. Ganni, we received a question on the Q&A section inquiring on which one would be earning more based on your experience with multinational organization, a CPA or a CIA?
Well, there's not one qualification that will earn more. So it's all relative. You can be with the CPA earning more or the CIA. It depends on the size of the company. It depends on the location of the company. Depends on really the duties that you have. Some companies might have internal audit department with 50 employees, and you're heading that. And some companies might have an internal audit department with 2 employees. So it's not one qualification will earn you more. What I can advise you is that both qualifications are highly respectful. Both organization can give you a career path, and both qualification is are recognized globally. Wherever you go around the world, when you take your business card, whether you have the CPA or CIA title, they're both credible. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you, Fadi. A follow-through question on the same topic. Which one would be most required?
They're both in requirements. Let me look. The accounting profession is changing, and the internal audit profession is changing. There's always going to be demand for accountants, finance, and for internal audit. Now, the way we carry the job and what are the skills to do the job, this will be changing. A typical accountant who was a graduate 20 years ago, if they will not be employable today if they are not have advanced their skills. And with the technology, okay, the way we operate is differently. So the demand is always going to be there, but the way we do the job is going to change. I'll just give you an example. When we used to be at the university, when I was at university 25 years ago, we used to learn the T balance and account what's debit and what's credit. In today's world, with the IT systems, you don't need to know what's debit and what's credit. The system will recognize those automatically. And the system will populate the financial statements automatically. So now, in order to do your job properly, you need to be able to read those numbers and understand and interpret them. So the careers are changing. The audit career is changing drastically. Before that, we used to go and set an internal control, test the internal controls of the company in order to derive on how we're going to do the audit assignments. So to test those internal controls, it used to take us weeks and weeks and weeks. And based on the testing, we will see how much sampling we want to do, how much in-depth we want to do in the audit. In today's world, the testing of internal controls is click, and the system will compare the financial statement of this year and last year. They look at what were the issues last year. In a split of seconds, they will tell you where are the areas to focus. So again, I'm just telling you, all careers are changing, both, but there's not one certification more in demand than the other. The advantage of the CPA over the CIA, there's one advantage. If you go for the CIA, you can only work in internal audits. Of course, you can be a CEO or a finance because you'll be exposed. But as a career path, you're more focused on the internal audit. With the CPA, you have the option to work external auditing or internal, because a lot of CPAs, after 10, 15 years working in audit, when they move to the private sector, some of them, they move into the internal audit. So a CPA can do both internal auditing and external, while the CIA is more focused on the internal auditing. That's the only advantage of CPA over CIA.
Thank you, Fadi. A question was concerning what location would be most earning for either a holder for a holder of either certification. Is there a preferred location on either continent, perhaps?
No, there's no. It's all relative. If you're working, I'll give you an example. A starting salary in New York as a CPA, if you're a fresh graduate, you join one of the big four, the starting salary is $90,000 on an average, between $80,000 to $100,000. $80,000 to $90,000 in salary in New York is equivalent to a $10,000 salary in Lebanon. So it's all relative. The cost of living, the demand, and everything, it's all relative. I cannot specify one country earning power more than the other. There's the taxes you have to pay. It can go up to 30, 40%. So it's not one country that they pay more than the other. That's a wrong misconception. It's all relative to the cost of living in New York. If you want to rent an apartment, you have to pay $3,000 to $4,000. So it's all relative. All what I can say is that those certifications, whether you work with them in Lebanon or in Saudi Arabia or in Dubai or in France or in they are highly credible, and you are at an advantage over those who don't have those certifications.
Thank you, Fadi. We have a couple of candidates with raised hands. Naja Khouri, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, Naja.
I have a question about CPA experience requirements.
Yes.
We know that there's a difference between multinational companies and local firms in Lebanon.
Yes.
So what are the requirements for these two different types?
Okay.
Do you mean for submitting the evaluation and earning your license, if it differs?
No, he's referring.
Yes, I'm asking about to be licensed.
Okay, let me explain that. So first of all, you have the big four, which are the biggest ones. They employ thousands. Then you have the big 20 firms, and then you have the local firms. In order to obtain the license, as long as the firm is licensed to practice as an external audit, you shouldn't have a problem. So if it's a firm, even if it's a local firm, that is a license by the Lebanese government, and with a license number that they are auditors, and someone within the organization is licensed, CPA, who can testify that you've worked with them, you shouldn't have an option. You shouldn't have a problem. The advantage of the big four is that you will find, first of all, they're all licensed. The other part is that you will always find somebody within their team who's a licensed chartered accountant or CPA who will testify your experience. That's the advantage.
Thank you, Fadi.
Thank you.
I don't know, Charles, if you want to add anything to this.
No, that pretty much sums it up. Thank you. We have another candidate with a raised hand, Jacques Courrier. Please feel free to ask your question.
Hello. Is
Hi.
there any other title needed by a private company, or if I have a company or many businesses, is there other title needed for a personal use, like CPA?
You mean other certifications?
Yes.
Oh, there is millions of certifications out there. It depends on what you're looking for, but there are millions, but there are handsome ones that are really heavyweight. So you have the CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst. You have the Certified Management Accountant, which is more of budgeting and forecasting. There is certification in HR. There's certification in digital marketing. There's certification in risk management. There's certification in everything you can think of. It all depends on what's your career aspiration. If you are in general business and you're managing a small company and you want to have an overview how to manage the business from budgeting, costing, how you do a forecast, what is the cost of operation, then probably the CMA qualification is the right qualification for you.
So
Did I answer?
if I may add to that, Fadi, because we also had a question in the chat about a preference, whether it's preferred to have a master's, then go for certifications or go directly for a specific certification exam. So I would add to what you previously said, it all depends on the career path and the career circumstances of each and every one. So definitely certifications are important, just as much as postgraduate degrees as masters or other may as well be important. It will all depend on exactly what the candidate is looking for, what he's looking to learn, while the postgraduate degrees have a very deep academic aspect to them with some knowledge in applied skills and knowledges, while certifications and certification exam have much more focus on the applied skills part of either field they would be interested about.
Yeah, and if I may add as well, like Isaac now, if you opt for masters in auditing, they've included the CPA as part of the masters in auditing. So literally, you're getting both. You're getting a master's degree, and you're getting your CPA, which is the ideal situation.
Provided they sit for their exams.
Yes.
And we also had an additional question in the chat that I answered previously concerning how long it might take to study the CIA. While pretty much it depends on everyone's own study pace and personal study capabilities, I just wanted to inform everyone that for the CIA in particular, and also applicable on the CPA, we do launch 2 full parts per year at Morgan. Actually, for the CPA,
Yeah, but you have to consider with the university curriculum, Charles.
Yes, of course. I was just answering about the general certification for candidates who are not included, who don't have it included in their postgraduate.
Yeah, in general, it can take between 4 months and 18 months. You can finish it in 4 months, or you can finish it in 18 months. It depending on how fast you want to go and how much dedication you are. But we have a specific program with ISAC, and you need to check that with ISAC within their master's program. It might take slightly longer because, or not much longer, because you're getting both the master's degree and the CPA. But in general, if you're not part of it, the master's program, and you're doing it on your own, is between 4 months and 18 months, depending how quickly you want to finish it.
Thank you, Fadi, for the input. Actually, we've received the same question by 2 different candidates relating to the cost of taking the programs with Isaac and Morgan. So this is to inform everyone that the CPA itself is included in the masters in auditing provided by the USAC. So for that,
which is cheaper than Morgan.
Yes. So for that, you might want to double check with Ms. Fleur Khalil at USAC. Otherwise, if you just want to go for the certification, please drop us an email. You will be receiving more information, this recording and some additional information. Please drop us a response email requesting information on either certification, and our program advisors will provide you with all the necessary details.
But it's definitely more expensive. I don't want to be giving wrong information. The university is subsidizing the program. So if you compare our prices to the university is cheaper.
Do we have any further questions? Raised hand. Naja, is that another raised hand or the same previous raised hand?
No, I do have another question.
Go ahead, please.
A question related to CPA and LCPA.
Yes.
If we pass the 4 exams of CPA and we want to do the LCPA certification, we have to redo the 4 exams or only the regulation exam?
Okay. If you are a US CPA and you want your Lebanese CPA, LCPA, you don't sit for the entire LCPA exam. You only sit for one part, which tests you on specific Lebanese laws and taxes. And you only need to the LCPA if you have your own audit firm and you are practicing, you're signing on financial statements. So if I look at the big firms, again, I refer to the big firms, not all of they don't push their staff to get their LCPA, but the partner in charge who is signing on financial statements have to have the local license. There is a reciprocity arrangement where if you're a US CPA, you can get your Lebanese LCPA by sitting for a small exam. It's not a big issue.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
It seems we have none under Q&A and no further incomings on chat.
No more questions?
I do have one more.
Yes, go ahead.
Question about the the percentage of the passing students of Morgan.
Okay, that's a very good question, and I'm happy to answer. First of all, when you say passing, it's a very complex way when you look at the passing rates. I'll explain it to you. And that's how the AICPA, they calculate that, and the IIA. So let's say you have let's talk about, example, the CPA, okay? You have 4 parts on the CPA. Let's say you sat for the 4 parts and you pass only 2 parts. And are you a CPA? No, your passing rate is 0. But the way AICPA, they do it, they look at parts taken, parts passed. So for us, if you take 4 parts and you clear 2 parts, okay, then our passing rate is 50%, but you still did not get your CPA. So this is how the calculation is done. That's one aspect. The other aspect is our passing rates. Of course, we're utilizing on the CPA, the Becker platform. On the CIA, we're utilizing the PRC platform. Those platforms have the highest passing rates. On the CPA side, what we say is that, and this is tested, 90% of those who are exam ready will pass the CPA exam. Now, we need to define what's exam ready. Exam ready, it means that you've done 90% of the homework. You've attended all the lectures. You're scoring 90% of the previous exam questions and the homework. You've done it 3 times. So I don't want you to fall into the misconception thinking that the course will help you pass or the instructor will help you pass, because a lot of people say our instructors will make you pass the exam. That's not true. We will give you all the tools that you need. We'll give you the best tools that you need. We'll give you the best instructors that you need, and the effort is on you. So how hard are you willing to work to get those certifications? If you're serious about it and you're working, you're planning to put the sweat and the effort and do the previous exam questions and follow the instructions and do the homework, 99% you will pass. If you want to try your luck, you're not going to pass. There's no instructor that's going to help you pass. We have the best tools to give you in order to pass. We have the highest passing rates. The international candidates' passing rates are aligned with our passing rates here. So Lebanese candidates are not at a disadvantage versus the American candidates. We have a very solid educational system in Lebanon. Hopefully, this is a good thing going for us. And Lebanese candidates are passing at the same passing rates like a candidate typical from the US. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, We had one award sales award, award winning. There's something called World Sales Award. These are the highest scores globally around the world, that they score 95% and above on each part of the exam. Globally, I'm talking, including the US. When one of the award winners was a candidate out of Lebanon, graduate from a local university and studied with us. So we give you all the tools. Don't listen to the marketing gimmicks. You put the hard time, you will pass the exam.
Thank
Did
you.
I answer you?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
All right. So there was another question from Naja also about the master's program. Naja, please, you can get in touch with Ms. Khalil, Ms. Fleur Khalil on this one, as the master's program is provided directly by UZEC. And there was another question relating to GPA, Fadi. Is there a requirement for the CPA?
No.
While personally, I advise that earning a certification would make the GPA itself obsolete, because in terms of acknowledgement and hiring potential, earning the CPA, nobody will still look at your university degree when you have such a certification.
Yes and no, but the thing is, GPA has nothing to do with passing or failing, okay? Even in order to apply for those exams, they don't look at the GPA. And the trend today, just to give you, so we have people with 10 years experience, honors list, they sit for the exam and they fail. We have people of no experience, not a good GPA, they sit for the exams and they pass. Don't correlate passing the exam to your university. They're two separate issues. Those exams, you put the effort, you pass. So it's about practice, practice, practice. If you put the hours and you practice, irrespective of your GPA, you will pass the exams. That's one aspect. The other aspect is that even on the GPA now, if we look at the market, I don't know about Lebanon, but I'm talking globally. Even on the GPA, even if you have now companies, a lot of those big companies, they have their own assessment tests, and they usually test your skills and character. So even if you have a good GPA, it doesn't mean that you're going to find a good job, because a lot of those companies will do their own assessment. And vice versa. If you don't have the best GPA, it doesn't mean that you cannot find a good job. So it's a combination of your skill set, your communication, your attitude towards work. The organization now, they hire a character and they can build the technical know-how. But of course, you have to have a degree, because the degree gives you the basics to really be able, so that they can give you the technical knowledge. But don't be, if you go to a company, say I have a GPA 4.0, hire me, they're gonna look at you and laugh. And if you have a GPA of 2 point something and you don't apply, you'll be foolish as well. So it's really, what's the package here? Does he have the skills? Does he have the attitude? Does he have good communication? Is that person willing to work hard? Can he learn? Is he a quick learner? Can he adapt quickly? Does he have critical thinking? We'll do the assessment. What's your activities at the university? Did you participate in activities? They look at the whole thing, not only GPA. And the exam don't care about GPA.
Thank you, Fadi. We have a raised hand from the participant, Alexandra. Please feel free to post your question.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
Once we have learned CPA courses at university, can we do the exams right away, or do we have to restudy alone after several months?
No, you sit for the exams immediately. because Isaac is using currently on the CPA side, they're using the Becker platform. So whatever you take at Isaac, it's sufficient for you. You finish and you sit for the exam immediately. You don't need to do extra review because they're following our own system, but delivered through the university.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, Alexandra. We had another question in chat. Someone asking if they already passed the first two parts, can they only repeat the last two? So I mentioned the 18 months timeline. So depending on the dates they passed their first two, if it's within 18 months of the sitting date for the first currently, that's when the timeline you have to pass all 4 exams. So if you're still within that time frame, you should be able to only attend the remaining 2.
Yeah.
And it seems we have no further questions for now.
Well, thank you, everyone. So any questions, you can refer back to your university about the master's program. If you have questions about the CIA or anything technical, we are here. I mean, we're in partners with Isaac on this. So you want to reach out to us, we can provide you with information. You want to reach out to Isaac about the master's program. We're more than happy to support you. Good luck.
Thank you so much, Fadi. Thank you, everyone,
Thank you.
for attending. And as mentioned previously, you will all be receiving the recording of this session within 48 hours. So thank you for attending. Hope it was beneficial for you all. It was a pleasure having you all here and hope to meet you again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you and nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Most welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.